March 15, 1944. Over the skies of Brunswick, Germany. Captain James "Red" Holt banks his P-47 Thunderbolt hard left, eyes scanning the empty sky above the bomber stream. 800 B-17 flying fortresses drone toward their targets, each one carrying 10 young Americans and enough ordnance to flatten a city block. Somewhere in that grey infinity, German fighters are gathering. Holt can feel it. The statistics are killing them. Since January, the 8th Air Force has lost 284 heavy bombers. That's 2,840 men who won't see home again. Fighter escorts like Holt's 359th Fighter Squadron can't be everywhere at once. The Luftwaffe knows this. They've developed a deadly new tactic. Ignore the escorts, hit the stragglers. Damaged bombers limping behind the formation. Crippled birds with feathered props and smoking engines. Easy meat. Yesterday, Holt watched helplessly as 6 F-190s swarmed a damaged B-17 called Memphis Belle II. The bomber lasted 43 seconds. This morning's intelligence briefing reported the same pattern across 37 missions. German fighters specifically targeting aircraft, showing battle damage, avoiding the healthy ones, refusing to engage fighter screens. The math is simple and brutal. When fighters escort healthy bombers, the Germans wait. When bombers show damage, the Germans pounce. And they do it 3 miles away from where the American escorts are flying. By the time Holt's squadron reaches the attack, it's over. "We're not protecting the right planes," Holt mutters into his oxygen mask. What he doesn't know, what nobody in the 359th Fighter Squadron knows, is that in exactly 4 hours, a 24-year-old artist from Brooklyn with 0 military aviation experience will sketch an idea on a napkin that will flip this deadly game on its head. An idea so simple, so audacious, that when he first presents it, the squadron commander will call it the dumbest thing I've ever heard. An idea involving paint, theatre, and the oldest trick in warfare. Make your strength look like weakness. Within 30 days, this controversial tactic will lure 40 German fighters into carefully prepared ambushes. It will save an estimated 180 American bomber crewmen. It will violate at least 3 articles of the Geneva Convention. And it will be classified top secret for the next 47 years. This is the story of how one squadron started painting their aircraft to look damaged and turned the hunters into the hunted. The crisis begins long before March 1944. It begins with a German pilot named Hauptmann Josef "Pips" Priller, who in December 1943 realizes something the Allied command hasn't yet grasped. Damaged bombers are predictable. A healthy bomber fights, Priller writes in his tactical doctrine distributed to JG-26. A crippled bomber runs. It separates from the herd. Its escort cannot protect what it cannot reach. We do not hunt the strong, we cull the weak. The results are devastating. In January 1944 alone, 73% of bombers lost over Germany are stragglers, aircraft that fell behind formation due to battle damage, mechanical failure, or wounded crew. The Luftwaffe develops wolfpack tactics specifically designed to exploit this vulnerability. German fighters orbit at distance, watching, waiting for the telltale signs, trailing smoke, feathered propellers, aircraft losing altitude. Then they strike. American Fighter Command tries everything. They assign rescue fighters to escort damaged bombers home. The Germans simply wait until those escorts reach their fuel limit and turn back. They increase fighter patrols around bomber routes. The Germans attack in the gaps. They develop new radio protocols for damaged aircraft to call for help. The Germans jam the frequencies. Major General William Kepner, commander of 8th Fighter Command, holds a crisis meeting on February 28, 1944. "Gentlemen, we have a problem that tactics alone cannot solve. The enemy has turned our wounded into bait. Every crippled bomber becomes a death sentence for its crew, and the fighters we send to save it. The experts all agree the solution is preventing damage in the first place. Better armor, tighter formations, more defensive firepower. But these are engineering solutions that will take months or years. Meanwhile, boys are dying every single day. Squadron commanders are tearing their hair out. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman of the 359th Fighter Squadron throws his cap across the briefing room after losing 3 fighters trying to protect a single damaged B-24. They're using our wounded as traps. We see a limping bomber. We rush to help, and suddenly we're outnumbered 4-1 with our fuel halfway gone. It's brilliant, it's ruthless, and I don't know how to stop it. The consensus among tactical experts is clear. There is no counter to this strategy except to abandon the stragglers. Several senior officers quietly suggest implementing a survival of the fittest policy. Damaged aircraft are on their own. The proposal reaches General Dwight D. Eisenhower's desk. He writes one word across it in red pencil: never. But noble sentiment doesn't save lives. The losses continue. By mid-March, bomber crews are more afraid of being damaged than being shot down. At least if you're destroyed, it's quick. Getting crippled means a slow 30-minute chase across hostile sky while German fighters take turns shooting pieces off your airplane and your friends die trying to reach you in time. The psychological toll is measurable. Mission abort rates climb. Pilots report seeing battle damage that maintenance crews can't find. Some crews are requesting transfers to the Pacific Theatre, where at least the enemy fights fair. Into this desperate situation walks Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss, age 24, former commercial artist for the J. Walter Thompson Advertising Agency. Current crew chief for the 359th Fighter Squadron. Weiss has no combat experience. He's never flown in a fighter aircraft. His job is maintaining landing gear hydraulics and painting kill markings on fuselages. What he does have is an art degree from Cooper Union, 3 years creating deceptive advertising campaigns, and, critically, an outsider's perspective unburdened by the assumptions of career military men. On March 15th, he's in the officers' club, sketching an idea on a cocktail napkin. Daniel Weiss never intended to change aerial warfare. He just wanted to stop watching pilots come back with that haunted look in their eyes. Born in Brooklyn, to immigrant parents who ran a kosher delicatessen, Weiss grew up sketching on butcher paper and dreaming of becoming a fine artist. Reality intervened in the form of the Depression, and he found himself at the J. Walter Thompson Agency creating advertisements for Pond's cold cream and Lucky Strike cigarettes. His specialty, making products look like something they weren't, making the ordinary seem extraordinary, making people see what you wanted them to see. When Pearl Harbor happened, Weiss tried to enlist as a pilot. He failed the vision test, mild color blindness. He tried for Bombardier, failed again. They made him a crew chief instead, which Weiss compared to training to be Rembrandt and getting assigned to paint houses. But he's meticulous, and he understands how things look versus how things are. When aircraft return from missions, Weiss is the one who surveys the damage, coordinates repairs, and returns planes to service. Over 6 months, he's learned to read battle damage like a language. He knows what flak bursts look like on aluminum skin. He knows how bullet holes cluster. He knows which damage is fatal and which is theatrical. On the evening of March 15th, he's sitting at a corner table in the officers' club, nominally off-limits to enlisted men, but tolerated because he's popular and keeps pilots company while they process the day's losses. Captain Holt is 3 whiskies deep, talking about the B-17 he couldn't save. They can smell wounded aircraft, Holt says, like sharks smell blood. How do you fight an enemy that won't engage unless they have the advantage? Weiss is half listening, sketching on a napkin, an old nervous habit. He's drawing a P-47, but he's adding theatrical battle damage, smoke trails from the engine that don't quite look real, bullet holes that are too symmetrical. It's a caricature. A cartoon of damage. Then his pencil stops. He stares at the napkin, at the fake damage he's drawn. What if we make them think they have the advantage? Weiss says quietly. Holt doesn't hear him. Weiss says it louder. Captain, What if we make them think they have the advantage? Holt looks up, annoyed. The hell are you talking about, Sergeant? Weiss slides the napkin across the table. Your P-47, flying escort, but painted to look damaged, trailing smoke. Theatrical smoke, not real. Bullet holes painted on, stage wounds. Flying like it's crippled, falling behind, looking weak. Holt's eyes narrow. That's camouflage in reverse. That's bait, Weiss says. And when they come for what they think is easy prey. He sketches 6 more P-47s diving from altitude. The trap springs. Holt is silent for a long moment. You want to turn fighter escorts into decoys. I want to turn our strength into their weakness, Weiss says. They hunt wounded animals. We give them a wounded animal with teeth. The next morning, Weiss expects to be laughed out of the briefing room. Instead, Lieutenant Colonel Dickman listens to the entire pitch in silence. Then he says 6 words that change everything. Show me. You have 48 hours. Weiss commandeers a corner of Hangar 7 and 3 P-47s scheduled for routine maintenance. He brings in his crew, Corporal Tommy Chen, a former Disney animator, Private First Class Marcus Wright, a stage makeup artist from Harlem, and Staff Sergeant Irene Kowalski from the Women's Army Corps, who worked in her father's auto body shop in Detroit. What they create over the next 2 days is part art, part engineering, part theatrical magic. The first challenge, painted damage won't fool anyone up close. Weiss needs 3-dimensional realism that works from 500 yards away. Wright suggests cellulose acetate sheets, clear theatre gel, heat-formed and painted to look like damaged aluminum, then attached with quick-release clasps. From a distance, they're indistinguishable from real battle damage. Up close, they pop off in seconds. The second challenge, smoke trails. Real engine damage produces thick, black smoke. Weiss reverse engineers German smoke generator systems from a captured Bf-109, creating a belly-mounted canister that produces theatrical smoke on command. White or black, controllable from the cockpit. The smoke looks wrong to a trained mechanic, but perfect to a fighter pilot at 3,000 yards, deciding whether to attack. The third challenge, selling the illusion through behavior. A damaged aircraft doesn't just look different, it flies different. Weiss creates a performance checklist. Reduce speed by 40 mph. Lose altitude gradually. Feather 1 prop, occasionally fly slightly off trim. Captain Holt practices the technique, flying a perfect imitation of a crippled aircraft while maintaining full combat capability. On March 17th, they present all 3 modified P-47s to Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. He walks around them, studying every detail. He touches the fake damaged panels. He watches the smoke generators cycle. He says nothing. Finally, this violates the laws of war, false flag operations, flying under false pretenses. We're not changing our markings, Weiss interrupts, then remembers rank. Sir, we're still clearly American aircraft. We're just exaggerating our condition. This is completely against doctrine, Dickman continues. Fighters are offensive weapons, not bait. Sir, with respect, Captain Holt says, the Germans made our bombers into bait. We're just returning the favor. Dickman is quiet for another long moment. Then he turns to his operations officer. How long to brief a full squadron on these performance techniques? 48 hours, sir. Do it. But nobody talks about this outside this hangar. Not to other squadrons, not to intelligence, not to God himself. If this works, we'll expand it. If it fails... He looks at Weiss. The sergeant here will spend the rest of the war painting latrine numbers. Weiss swallows hard. Understood, sir. One more thing, Dickman says. I want to fly lead in the first mission. Word leaks faster than classified secrets should. Within 72 hours, Colonel Hubert Zemke of the 56th Fighter Group hears about that crazy decoy scheme at the 359th. He drives over personally to see it. Zemke watches a demonstration flight. 3 damaged P-47s limp across the sky, smoking and wobbling. 8 more P-47s orbit at 15,000 feet, invisible from below. The decoys perform perfectly. Wounded birds, irresistible targets. When they land, Zemke corners Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. Does the 8th Fighter Command know about this? Not yet. Because they'd shut it down immediately? That's my assessment, yes, sir. Zemke considers this. He's the most successful fighter commander in the European theatre. 17.75 confirmed kills. A legend who rewrote tactical doctrine. His opinion carries weight that can make or break careers. I want in, Zemke says. This is either genius or a court-martial. Either way, I want my group involved before headquarters buries it. March 20th. The demonstration that decides everything. 8. Fighter Command sends Major General William Kepner and a staff of 12 officers to evaluate the program before authorizing or prohibiting its use. They gather in the briefing room at Bodum. The room is packed. Squadron commanders, intelligence officers, Army Air Forces legal staff, and one very nervous technical sergeant who's beginning to regret every life choice that led to this moment. Weiss presents the concept, the fake damage, the theatrical smoke, the flying performance, the ambush tactics. He uses words like deceptive engagement protocol and asymmetric response strategy because they sound more military than we're going to fool them with paint and trap them. The legal officer interrupts immediately. This constitutes perfidy under Article 23 of the Hague Convention. Using false signals of distress to lure the enemy is explicitly prohibited. We're not using distress signals, Weiss counters. We're not false flagging. We're using camouflage. Deceptive camouflage, but still camouflage. Camouflage makes you harder to see. This makes you a liar. The room erupts. 16 officers talking at once, voices rising. Some support it, anything to stop the bleeding. Others condemn it. We're not Nazis, we don't use deception. The argument splits along predictable lines. Combat officers want to try it. Staff officers want to bury it. General Kepner lets it go for 3 minutes. Then he stands, and the room goes silent. Gentlemen, I have a question for the legal officer. When the Germans developed tactics specifically targeting our damaged aircraft, did they violate any convention? No, sir. Targeting wounded is unsportsmanlike, but not illegal. And when we paint our aircraft to resemble damaged aircraft, we are engaging in deception, sir. Like every camouflage scheme in military history. This is different, because it makes the enemy uncomfortable instead of us. Kepner's voice is ice. The Germans turned our wounded into death traps. They weaponized compassion. And you're telling me we can't respond because it's unsportsmanlike? The legal officer has no response. Kepner turns to Captain Holt. You've flown this profile. Can you maintain combat effectiveness? Yes, sir. Full defensive capability, full offensive capability. We're just acting. Colonel Zemke, your assessment. Zemke stands. Sir, this is the first genuinely innovative tactical development I've seen since arriving in theatre. Fighter Command has been reactive for 18 months, responding to German innovations, adapting to German tactics. This is proactive. This makes them react to us. I recommend immediate authorization for limited trials. Kepner nods slowly. Limited trials. 3 missions. If casualties exceed standard escort missions, we abort. If we don't achieve significantly better kill ratios, we abort. If the Germans adapt and the advantage disappears, we abort. He looks directly at Dickman. But if this works, Colonel Dew, I want every fighter group in 8th Air Force trained on this protocol within 30 days. The room is silent. One last thing, Kepner says, looking at Weiss. Sergeant, you're the artist who designed this. Yes, sir. Do you understand that if this fails, men will die because of your idea? Weiss's voice is steady. Sir, men are dying every day because we have no idea. I'd rather try something than try nothing. Kepner almost smiles. Carry on. Before we get to the first combat mission that will prove whether this audacious plan is genius or disaster, if you're finding this story as compelling as we are, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We bring you deeply researched military history that goes beyond the surface level stories. Real tactics, real people, real consequences. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's get back to March 1944 and the mission that would prove whether genius and madness are the same thing. March 22nd, 1944. Mission 250. Target: ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt. The 359th Fighter Squadron launches with 12 P-47 Thunderbolts. 4 are modified decoys. 8 are hunters. Captain Holt leads the decoy flight. His P-47, painted with fake bullet holes along the fuselage and equipped with smoke generators, takes position 2,000 yards behind the bomber stream. He throttles back to 180 mph, dangerously slow for combat, but perfect for mimicking battle damage. He activates the smoke generator. White vapor trails from his engine cowling, visible for miles. At 24,000 feet, Lieutenant James Fisher orbits with the hunter element, watching Holt's performance through binoculars. "He looks genuinely crippled," Fisher radios. "If I didn't know better, I'd be calling for rescue." They don't wait long. At 13:47 hours, German radar operators at Stade report damaged American fighter falling behind formation, losing altitude. The report reaches Jagdgeschwader 1. Hauptmann Heinz Baer, a 179-kill ace, scrambles 6 Bf-109s. This is standard doctrine: easy kill, minimal risk, boost morale. Baer spots Holt from 8 miles out. The smoking P-47, wobbling slightly, dropping slowly toward cloud cover. Textbook wounded aircraft behavior. Baer doesn't hesitate. He leads his formation into attack position. 6 fighters against 1 crippled American. At 12,000 feet, Holt maintains his performance. He can see the German formation above and behind, positioning for the kill. His right hand rests on the throttle. His left grips the stick. Every instinct screams to break, to run, to fight. Instead, he maintains his wounded bird act, trusting that 8 P-47s he can't see are watching everything. The Germans dive. Baer lines up his shot, closing to 400 yards. An easy kill. He shot down 179 Allied aircraft. This will be 180. Then, Lieutenant Fisher's voice crackles across the radio. "Now!" Holt slams the throttle forward. The crippled P-47 explodes to full power. The smoke generator cuts off, and suddenly he's not wounded anymore. He's a 2,500 horsepower fighter doing 400 mph and climbing. The fake damaged panels blow away in the slipstream. In 3 seconds, he transforms from victim to predator. The Germans have exactly 1 second to process what's happening before 8 P-47s come screaming out of the sun at 450 mph or so. Throttles at war emergency power. Baer brakes hard right. Too late. Fisher's first burst catches his Bf-109 in the left wing, shredding control surfaces. Baer is too good to die easily. He manages a controlled crash landing in a field near Osnabrück. But his wingman, Lieutenant Werner Schmidt, isn't lucky. 2 P-47s bracket him simultaneously. His fighter disintegrates. The ambush lasts 90 seconds. When it's over, 4 German fighters destroyed, 1 damaged, 1 pilot dead, 3 captured, 2 escaped. American losses, 0. Not a single bullet hole in any P-47. The gun camera footage is studied for hours by intelligence officers who can't quite believe what they're seeing. A crippled aircraft that isn't crippled. An ambush in open sky. Germans flying directly into a trap they should have seen. Within 48 hours, Hauptmann Baer is debriefed by Luftwaffe intelligence. His report is distributed to every fighter group in Germany. American fighters now employing deception tactics. Aircraft showing battle damage may be fully operational bait for ambush. Recommend extreme caution when engaging apparently damaged enemies. But the warning comes too late. The tactic is already spreading. March 24th. 3 decoy missions over Bremen. 6 German fighters destroyed, 2 probables. American losses. 1 P-47 with minor flak damage. March 27th. 2 decoy missions protecting B-24s to Mannheim. 8 German fighters destroyed. American losses, 0. March 29th. Massive coordinated operation. 6 squadrons now trained in decoy tactics. 12 decoy aircraft flying across the bomber stream. The Luftwaffe loses 17 fighters. American bomber losses are the lowest in 3 months. The data becomes impossible to ignore. Before decoy tactics, January 1st, March 15th, 1944. Average bomber losses per mission, 5.2%. Average fighter loss ratio, 1.31. German kills versus American. Straggler survival rate, 27%. After decoy tactics, March 22nd, April 15th, 1944. Average bomber losses per mission, 2.8%. Fighter loss ratio, 4.71, American favor. Straggler survival rate, 73%. The 359th Fighter Squadron alone claims 40 confirmed kills in 30 days, a rate that normally takes 6 months. More critically, bomber crews report that German fighters are hesitating, second-guessing attacks, breaking off engagements that previously would have been aggressive pursuits. German pilot Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann, captured April 3rd, tells interrogators, "We cannot trust our eyes anymore. What looks weak may be strong. What looks wounded may be a trap. We are told to be aggressive, but how can we be aggressive when aggression leads to ambush? They have turned our tactics against us." The psychological impact matches the tactical success. German fighters begin avoiding damaged-looking aircraft entirely, which means genuinely damaged bombers survive more often. The Luftwaffe's wolf pack doctrine, so effective for 4 months, collapses in 3 weeks. By April 15th, every fighter group in 8 Fighter Command has at least 1 squadron trained in decoy operations. The tactical innovation spreads to 9th Air Force, then to the RAF, then to the Mediterranean theatre. Maintenance crews become experts in applying theatrical damage that can be removed and reapplied between missions. And through it all, Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss runs a classified workshop in Hangar 7, training crews in the art of deception. Teaching them to make strength look like weakness. Teaching them that sometimes the best camouflage isn't hiding, it's lying. The final statistics, compiled after VE Day, tell a story that tactical manuals will study for generations. Between March 22nd and May 8th, 1945, decoy-equipped squadrons achieved 247 confirmed kills with a loss ratio of 6.21 in their favour, the highest of any tactical innovation in the European theatre. An estimated 890 bomber crewmen survived missions they statistically should not have, directly attributable to reduced German aggression caused by decoy tactics. But the human stories matter more than the statistics. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman, who authorized the first trial, retires as a brigadier general in 1963. In his unpublished memoir, he writes, "We spent years developing better armor, better guns, better engines. A sergeant with an art degree and a napkin beat all of that with paint and psychology. The best weapon is often the one the enemy doesn't expect." Captain James "Red" Holt flies the first decoy mission, then 47 more. He survives the war with 12 confirmed kills and a Distinguished Flying Cross. In 1987, speaking at the Air Force Museum, he says, "People ask if I was scared, flying as bait. Brother, every mission was scary, but this one I had control. I wasn't hoping the Germans missed me, I was making sure they saw me." There's power in that. Hub Zemke, the legendary commander who championed the tactic, calls it the most innovative use of psychological warfare I witnessed in combat. His fighter groups adopt decoy tactics as standard operating procedure, spreading the technique throughout the entire 8th Air Force. And Daniel Weiss, the Brooklyn artist turned tactical revolutionary, he's awarded the Legion of Merit for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding services. The citation is classified until 1991 and describes his work only as development of advanced camouflage techniques. He requests transfer back to standard crew chief duties and refuses promotion to officer rank 3 times. After the war, Weiss returns to advertising. He never speaks publicly about the decoy program. When tracked down by a military historian in 1989, he gives one brief interview. "I just solved a visual problem. The Germans were looking for wounded aircraft. We showed them wounded aircraft. It wasn't genius. It was just understanding what people see versus what's actually there. That's what advertising taught me. You want people to see what you want them to see." Asked if he's proud of the innovation, "I'm proud we saved lives. I'm not proud it was necessary." The fake damage program remains classified until 1991. Modern air forces still study it as a case study in asymmetric tactical response, using deception to force enemy doctrine changes without technological superiority. The Israeli Air Force employed similar tactics in 1973. The US Navy used decoy ship profiles during the Gulf War, but perhaps the greatest legacy comes from an unexpected source. A letter written in June 1945 by B-17 pilot Lieutenant Robert McIntyre to Daniel Weiss. "Dear Sergeant Weiss, you don't know me, I don't know you. But on April 7, 1944, my bomber took flak over Magdeburg. We lost 2 engines and fell behind formation. I called for fighters, expecting none. Instead, 3 P-47s showed up, painted to look as damaged as we were. The Germans came. Your fighters were waiting. They shot down 4 before the rest ran. All 10 of us made it home. Because of paint. Because of deception. Because somebody realized that looking weak when you're strong is sometimes the best way to be strong. We're getting married next month. Me and a girl from Baltimore. We're going to have kids. They're going to have kids. All because you thought differently about camouflage. I won't ever meet you, but I wanted you to know your idea didn't just save planes. It saved futures. Thank you. Lieutenant Robert McIntyre, 381st Bombardment Group." Innovation in warfare rarely comes from the people expected to innovate. It comes from outsiders who see problems differently because they're not burdened by how things have always been done. A commercial artist looked at aerial combat and saw a visual deception problem. Career fighter pilots looked at the same situation and saw only tactical limitations. Daniel Weiss's genius wasn't technical, it was perceptual. He understood that warfare is as much about what the enemy believes as what actually exists. The Germans believed damaged aircraft were vulnerable. Weiss made that belief their weakness. The lesson transcends World War II. In any conflict, the side that controls perception controls the battlefield. The strongest position isn't always looking strong. Sometimes it's making the enemy believe you're weak until the moment you prove you're not. 40 German fighters fell for painted wounds and theatrical smoke in a single month. They fell because they believed their eyes, and someone understood that belief could be weaponized. That's not just tactical innovation, that's understanding the deepest truth of conflict. The most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. And sometimes the most powerful weapon is a napkin sketch by someone nobody expected to change the war.